Okay, so we have a bunch of wonderful microphones here that I know some of them. Can you tell me about each one of these?
Yeah, sure. So this is the EMI RM1B. EMI used to make their own microphones back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
So when the studios first opened, it would have been Western Electric microphones and EMI made microphones. The German microphones didn't come onto the scene until later on. So this is one of them. I think
How old is this mic?
This is like 1949. Wow. Yeah. So there's only like 2 of these in existence that we know of. I think only 35 were ever made. This is number 34. So ribbon microphone. It's just got it kind of looks like it's going to sound really lo-fi, but it doesn't. It sounds really rich and sort of quite wonderful. It's still got that kind of slightly archaic sound, but it's like it's got character. But it's quite wonderful. We use these actually on the Spitfire sessions. We have them just at the front of the orchestra. Wow. So you kind of got that option for that kind of more old school sound. Only 2 of those.
2 of those.
Yes,
wow.
I hope they don't go down, because if they do, my sessions are ruined.
Okay, I'm going to stay back here.
But yeah, I don't know. I just love the fact that these are still used, and yeah, I'm glad they're still here and we still got them. And people like Lester can look after these microphones and keep them going. It's
Lester, who does all your mic maintenance, right?
Yeah, Lester Smith. Yeah, he's been here a while and looks after all our microphones.
And talk about that, about how it's hard to find people that really know how to work on these.
Yeah, I mean, these mics, 1949, the U47s are actually, the late 40s as well.
Yep.
I mean, these mics, it's one thing...
Mics like U47s, though, are made, there's so many different versions of them now. These are the original ones.
These are the original, yeah.
Right, but people have dissected these and many people know about these, how these are constructed.
Yeah.
I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. This is actually Rick Beato 2. I've had it since the beginning of my main channel, and many of you are not subscribed. As a matter of fact, 87% of the people that watch this channel regularly are not subscribed. So I encourage you to hit the subscribe button on this channel and on my main channel. This will help me get even more of my dream guests and help continue to grow both channels. Thank you.
It's one thing owning this beautiful older equipment. It's one thing we have to look after it.
Right.
I mean, I guess if you've got enough money, anyone can get hold of something like this, but you've got to look after it. It's maintenance. And stuff
the tubes in these, how long do they last for? They can last for decades.
Well, they can last for decades, but there is a bit of a problem. So the actual original valve in the Neumann 47 and 48.
When he says valve, it means tube.
Tube, sorry.
Yeah. No, but valve, yeah.
VF14s.
Yes.
I think when these microphones were made, they were just going out of production, those valves, right? So there's a problem to begin with.
Yeah.
And over the years, people have found new old stock, like in warehouses or whatever. It's where you find this stuff. It's mind-blowing sometimes.
Right.
But there is a limited supply. We've got a few of them, but once they're gone, they're gone. And a lot of people do say, and I believe them, the VF14 is the sound of, or is a huge part of the sound of this microphone. So once that goes, people have tried other valves over the time, but they just haven't quite got the same sound. It's one of those weird things, just the way it is, but we're all right for a while. Another Neumann classic, this is the M50.
Yep. There's the M49, there's the M50. Wait, what is the difference between an M49 and M50?
So the M49, funnily enough, was the more popular microphone here at Abbey Road. It's now the reverse, but the M49 has got the switchable polar patterns.
Yeah.
Which I think at the time was quite a big deal.
That was unusual.
That's right. Change the patterns, so you could go from omnidirectional, picking up everything, to cardioid, just picking up at the front, figure of 8, we pick up the front and the back.
Yep.
So there are a lot of M49s at Abbey Road. We still got a few of them, but now we've got more M50s.
Are M50s Omni?
They're Omni. They've got a slightly darker side on the back, but pretty much Omni, and these are mainly used as the Decatree for recording orchestras. And the Decatree goes back to the
You probably
50s.
have a lot of these then, right?
Yeah, we've got like 15 or so, I think.
Yeah. When did these become more popular? When did it switch from the M49s to the M50s?
Probably around the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, and why did people why did people start to favor these?
I think people just prefer that because they look the same, but they're actually quite different microphones. So they got different capsules inside.
Yeah.
Different makeup, so they've got different sound. I think people just seem to gravitate towards the sound of the M50 for omnidirectional. It's just like a fuller, richer sort of sound.
And maybe too, because of the backside being darker, they would probably face the front side towards the orchestra.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would give it a certain sound.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of grew up with Abbey Road, as it were. My first job was here, pretty much.
Right.
From an 18-year-old, and I kind of just took for granted the collection we have here at Microphones.
Yeah.
Because I remember like a couple of years later, I went to go and do a job at Olympic Studios.
Yeah,
Down in
famous-
Barnes.
Yep.
A great studio, yeah. Which someone told me they're going to open up again recently.
I
which is
heard that.
cool.
I saw some pictures about that.
And I asked the studio manager to get the keys to the microphone room, and she was like, no, there's not a microphone room, there's a microphone cupboard. Opened the microphone cupboard, I was like, oh, okay, so great microphone collection, but I was like, okay, this is reality. You know, they had a couple of 67s, I think they had one 47, but it was like a reality check for me, because I
so
was used to
spoiled.
just having, spoiled basically, yeah. I mean, we're so lucky here, we really are. So these are some of the modern mics. So these are actually mics we've designed with
Chandler.
Chandler Limited, with Wade, over in Iowa.
Yep.
So they're unusual mics. I mean, Wade always likes to kind of, look at the old EMI gear and kind of, add a slight modern twist on it,
Yeah.
kind of, or use the inspiration of that gear and those original schematics. And
we talked, just for people that don't know,
Yeah.
so we had talked earlier about Chandler remaking the Abbey Road, preamps, compressors, and that started 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah,
And he approached
time
you
flies.
guys to do that, and there's been a real synergy between you guys, and
Yeah.
he's recreated these things, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, because I work closely with Wade, and we kind of, make these beautiful bits of recording gear together. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, software's a big thing these days,
Yeah.
but people still kind of want real hardware, stuff you can actually touch with your hands, and so there's still a demand for that. Yeah, so Wade has been doing the mic and the compressors and the EQ recreations, and then it was like, well, why don't we do microphones? What could we do with microphones? And Wade came up with this concept of wiring the actual microphone capsule directly into the U47 preamp we talked about earlier on, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
the
yeah.
recreation of the U47 preamp, so you kind of got the mic and the preamp in the same shell. So you can plug that directly into your DAW, into Pro Tools or Logic or whatever.
Without needing a mic pre.
Yeah, it's so I don't think anyone done that. Well, no one done it before. It's a patented design.
Yeah.
And another thing we did with the TG microphone was take the transfer desk, which is essentially the mastering desks up in the mastering room, the EMI mastering desks. Back then, it was all tape they were working from. So they got these tape EQ selector curves for NAB or IECs, 15 IPS, 30 IPS, 7.5 IPS, and they're slightly different EQ curves. And Wade and I always just loved that EQ bump. I used to use it a lot for various bits and pieces. So we thought if we put that EQ selector on the back of the microphone, then you can, sculpt the sound of your microphone depending on what you're recording. So again, it's just a slightly different twist on the norm for microphones. So.
Well, I love the fact that you guys have actually not only recreated things that are physical, but then you also have the plugins that you've done.
Yeah.
You did the collaboration with Waves. You've done different collaborations to capture all the different pieces of gear here in digital form too.
Yeah, and I just kind of feel that it's great to have the plugins from the point of view, not only do they sound good, but also it kind of it's telling the story, it's keeping the legend alive. Those classic designs, people like Mike Batchelor, Len Page, they're unique designs, and I love the fact that when we release, whether it's a plugin or release a piece of hardware, we go back to the archives and we get up the old technical notes and there's photographs and we sort of tell that story and kind of keep that legend going.
How involved is it, for example, when you modeled the echo chamber?
Yeah.
How involved is it to make these impulse responses or however it's done? Does this take a lot of time to do that?
Yeah, I mean, a plugin can generally take anything from 6 months to a couple of years. Depends on how much R&D is
and
involved.
who goes back and listens to make sure that they're right?
That's me.
I was wondering,
That's
I
my
figured,
job.
right.
Yeah.
And that's really difficult work, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can drive yourself crazy, right? I sit there with a pair of headphones,
right,
and I've got the original gear, and I've got the software, and I've used, drums, bass, vocals, strings, whatever, loads of different material.
You put it through,
I A/B between the two.
And you
I
ever
flick
ask
between the two.
anybody to come in, hey, come in, listen to this.
Oh, yeah,
Can you tell the difference?
So I do the preliminary check, if you like, and then I ask the Abbey Road engineers to sort of, double check me and make sure everyone's cool with it, and all that sort of stuff. So it's like a joint collaboration, but there's usually a few back and forth before I get the engineers involved with whoever I'm working with, whether it's Wade or whether it's the guys at waves, or whether it's with Spitfire Audio with the samples.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually I get sign off from the engineers.